Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another excruciatingly excellent episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Sharon Show. We're really excited. We have a returning guest today, but before we get into that and introduce him, we're going to read today's quote. Sharon's going to read today's quote, and then I'm going to pull a card. Here you go, Sharon.
All right, so I saw that Aaron Abke had posted this on his Instagram, and it really spoke to me. And as I read this, I just want you to be reminded that I'm preaching to myself. You know, we preach to the choir here on the Sharon Show.
That's
So,
right.
so no, if you get offended, be offended at yourself because
Get as offended as you like, folks.
I'm not going to do this. What was he saying?
Yes.
Sorry. All right. So Aaron Abke writes that this is a culturally unpopular opinion. The more offended you are, the more intensely you are projecting. Being offended is the ego's defense mechanism against confronting its own imbalances. It's much easier to see them in others. And side note, boy, ain't that the truth.
Yeah.
If you are narcissistic, the pride of others will drive you mad. If you are insecure, you will revel in the failure of people you don't like. When you respond to anyone with anything but love, you are projecting an unhealed part of yourself. And wow, I probably need to read that every day to myself.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think we should. I just had an epiphany or an idea. We should probably introduce the guest after the quote. This way they can comment on it, and then when I pull the card, they're already
Yes,
there. Would you like to introduce them?
sure. So we have a returning guest, as B said. This is Bootsy Greenwood, aka his real name's Owen Hunt, but Bootsy Greenwood actually is much cooler just because, just because it differentiates him from all the other Owen Hunts in the world. And it's very unique. So Bootsy was on our show. Shoot, I didn't write down the last episode he was with us on, but I can probably link it below later. Um, and the reason we have him on today is that I just recently took his course, his Path to Purpose course that he offered freely, and it was a lovely opportunity to do some self work, and identify some things about myself that I could um, I could do better, shall I say. So I just wanted him to come on and chat with us about like this Path to Purpose course, like how he over the last 12 years, he says, came up with all this information from different sources. He pulled from different sources, but he put it all together to make this course. And I wanted him to share that with us because it's wonderful to like find one's purpose and feel like you have the purpose in this world. So I made that kind of long, so sorry about that. But
I thought it was great.
thank you,
Personally.
thank you.
Happy to be here. Thank you all for having me back. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you got something out of the course, that you enjoyed it, that it helped you, see yourself at a little deeper level, get you a little bit more, on that trajectory. It's all about making small adjustments all the time. And it's funny because when I first started doing this work, I thought I was just going to journal one page and be done. 12 years later, here we are. I'm still uncovering new things, and it's become much more of a lifestyle than a one and done type of thing.
Absolutely. It is a lifestyle.
It is. Yeah. It can't
I
not
think
be.
it's amazing because a lot of people when they get into this stuff, it's kind of like the quote we just read in the beginning. They want to point their fingers at everyone else, and they want to shut themselves out and blame everyone else and just kind of distance themselves. But you took a different approach and you took everything you learned. So instead of just following one person's, and not to say that maybe you didn't follow somebody's method for a while or whatever, But I think you're kind of like us in the way that you just like to find your own specific way. And if you do find a way and you make it and it's one that works, why not share it with everybody else? Because then they could add it to their own repertoire or whatever.
And that's what resonated with me, is because I feel like he does like kind of like what we do a little bit. He like gathered from all these different sources and then like shared that with people. And I feel like we kind of do that on this show.
We're also fellow capybaras.
Yes, I love it. We
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, we're riding those caiman backs, crocodile or whatever, caiman backs all over. And I think it's a really good time right now to be capybara. I have no idea what's going on because I used to get my news from Instagram, but as Sharon can attest, like I haven't even really been on Instagram or anything. I'll pop on whatever, but I could just imagine that right now, the October before an election, it's probably pretty crazy out there. And also Sharon and I say to people is like, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be crazy out there, everybody. But yeah, so it's a good
So
thing to have another capybara on.
yes, it is. It's lovely. And so we wanted to know if you had any thoughts on the quote or anything that you wanted to say about it.
Yeah, it's really good. I am currently reading a book called The Mountain Is You. I just found it's a pretty new book, but it's really about self-sabotage. And it
Mm,
goes right along the lines of that quote right there. And I recently had the opportunity to go through Peter Sage's program as well, which was a huge honor. I'm actually speaking with him in the morning, kind of nervous to be honest.
Ooh.
He's a pretty big figure, and he really knows his stuff. An amazing man. But one of the exercises that we did in his conference was to talk about the things that we lacked, especially in childhood. And the whole point of that exercise, spoiler alert here, was to give the thing that you lacked. And so that also kind of folds into, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but coming from that perspective and giving yourself, first of all, the thing that you lacked, and then to give it out to other people, this is huge. That's really acting from a place of love. And, from that mountain as you kind of perspective with that self-sabotage, it's opening yourself up and allowing yourself to feel more feelings, not necessarily feeling better all the time. It's not always going to be that. And this is something my friend Todd says. We just kind of started a new series about going out and dating and stuff like that, which is pretty interesting, I think, and juicy. But as we do that, we're finding a lot of stuff popping up. Like that is in very uncomfortable territory to just walk up to strangers and start talking to them.
mhm.
Especially if you're intimidated by them or attracted to them or whatever. It's like, oh my God, like I'm just like gonna walk right up to you and be like, hey, how you doing? Like I saw you from over there and I thought you were cute or whatever. And they're like, get away from me. Or maybe the worst thing that's happened so far is like just being completely ignored, just being completely shut off.
Yeah, that's
Like you don't
brutal.
exist,
Did you
that
come to
happens.
Connecticut? Is that what happened? Because that's just how
That's actually not
people
my
operate up here.
how,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, that's
that's
just
how
their
people
MO. Like
I
like in
mean,
New
it
York,
happens to
they'll
me.
tell you. I always say in New York, they tell you to fuck off, but here they just ignore you. It's way worse. I'm like, just
It's worse. It's so much worse. Well, it happens to me on the street as if I'm an urchin because I'm like barking to people for comedy too. We have some stand-up comedy places here, and I'll just go out on the street, and just be like, "Hey, what's up? Comedy tonight?" And then they'll just walk by you like you're begging for change, So that
Yep.
happens. But yeah, a lot's been coming up, and I think it's been a really powerful experience from an emotional perspective because we don't grow by being comfortable, and our emotions are wanting to keep us safe. It comes from that place. It's a good intention. But the more we just feel safe, the less we grow, and the more we can expand our comfort zone, the more we can kind of elevate our neutral point and maybe feel a little bit more deserving of the things maybe that we want. So,
And that feeling, allowing yourself to feel like all the feelings that, you were talking about goes to that whole letting go topic too, that Dr. David R. Hawkins talks about, which is to allow yourself to feel the feelings, even if they're uncomfortable, because in the allowing yourself to feel them, um, that's part of the letting go process. You're not pushing them away. You're not pushing them down. You're not resisting them. You're just
Right.
allowing them. And because they're being allowed now, they can just be like, oh, okay, now I can just let go. I mean, allegedly, right? That's how it's supposed to work.
No, definitely. And one of the things that she says too, that reminds me of one of the things that she says in the book is that when you have that anger towards someone else, it's because very likely they have something that you won't let yourself have. And so you're mad at them because they have it. Like they have this thing and you're like
Mm.
upset because you won't let yourself have that thing. And I
Mm.
think there's some truth to that for sure.
Yeah. That's makes me think of the Worthy Mind, which I started listening to the audiobook of that and reading it. This other lady, Spoons, told me about the book. And
Cool.
she talks about she talks about how when she was a little girl, she didn't allow herself to have like the nicer things, or didn't get herself the nicer things because she got like a lot of bad energy from her mom, that like, you shouldn't spend money on yourself type of idea. Like, and so instead of buying herself something nice that she wanted when she was growing up, she bought her mom a gift. And but then she grew up, had children, and then she's like has these panic attacks episodes, and then she's like, why am I having this? And she boils it down to, I'm not allowing myself to buy myself nice things, or allow myself to buy myself things that I want, that I deserve, that are not frivolous. They're, that sort of thing. So it reminded me of that too.
Yeah,
That's good.
all this
Mhm.
stuff, it really, it's funny because as you guys are talking and you're talking about like accepting your feelings and allowing them to be there and allowing yourself to feel them and to be heard really and accept it for what it is, it just kind of reminds me of everything, the way everything works in this realm. It's just like how I feel like I found my woman, and Sharon's the same way how she found Cody, where we just got to a point where like it's okay if we're alone. We got to the point where we weren't trying so hard, I guess you could say. We just were like, all right, if that's what it's meant to be, if we're meant to be alone, then it's okay. And then shortly after, both of us got into relationships. So I feel like it speaks to everything in this realm. Whenever anything happens that you don't want to happen, I mean, that's what Buddha says. He's like, the minute you don't accept something, right, that's when suffering begins. So I think acceptance really is the key. It's the final stage of grief. And if
Yes,
you could just get to that acceptance sooner, then you kind of just roll with the flow, you go with the flow.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's good.
And the climbing up the mountain that you were talking about, the book, Mountain is You, it makes me think of that, you know, that mountain that we're all trying to climb, right? We're all on a different journey, right? But then the book's name is The Mountain is You. So it's like, no, it's different because it's you. You are the mountain. Like no one's going to climb your mountain the same way you do. They're going to climb their own mountain because you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that whole like you go up the mountain to find the, monk that's sitting at the top of it, like that whole journey, like all the
Yeah.
things that are externalized in that metaphor, like
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
it's all within us. So
Yeah. It's
and
all you.
yeah, and that's a big part of the reality transurfing book is allowing yourself to have, there are many things in that book that he focuses on, importance to being one of them, and letting go, just like Brandon was saying, but he doesn't necessarily always give you a process to be able to accomplish that. It's like, how do you
Mm.
actually allow yourself to have? It's like,
Wow.
that is something that you can read and be like, yeah, I know I don't need to put too much importance on this. How do I lessen it? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I don't need to, or I know I need to allow myself to have. And he even gives you an example of like a homeless person looking in the window of people having dinner. And of course he wants to be at the table and eat dinner, but
Mhm.
will he allow himself to be able to be there? And so like that's a whole entire process of undertaking than just a snap of a finger and being able to do that. So it takes a little bit of work to be able to do that. And that's why I think that's goes back to this whole lifestyle choice of growth.
Yeah, a
So
hundred
be.
percent. I feel like it's funny because when you like you said when you first get into it, you think it's gonna be quick, and then you think you're done, and you think you know it all, but things just keep happening, and I think that's exactly that is the path, right? That's the work, and to just realize that we already are perfect. Like there really is no work to be done. I kind of had this epiphany. We've been watching this show. It's funny. I took like a maybe 4 years off from TV, and we've been watching shows for like maybe about a year or so now. And I just found that what you said, like people getting there in their own way, it's really highlighted well. Like you watch Breaking Bad or shows like that, where a lot of these people, it's just themselves, and it's because they have such low self esteem and they basically hate themselves. So they kind of treat everybody, in that same way. Um, but what was my point originally? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I'll pick it back up. But anyway, I've learned though, we've definitely learned along this process that anytime we start to demonize something like TV, I would demonize it, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's not that it's totally evil. It's just my own relationship with it, and it's again climbing the mountain, right? It's the way I perceived it was the problem. It wasn't the thing itself.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Did you pull a card?
I did the Nine of Wands. Here, I'm gonna.
I feel like you pull wands a lot.
I do pull wands a lot. It's funny. I think it was the Ten of Wands last episode. I was right
Yeah.
upside down. There you go. So the Nine of Wands, it's a nice little flexion there, but it's basically just nine wands in a field of colors. And nine is, we talk about this a lot, it's kind of the end of the cycle. 10 is the true end, but 10 is the end that also has the beginning in it because it's the one with the zero. It's the completion and the turning of the cycle. I always say nine is like if you look at Lord of the Rings, nine would be like when Frodo destroyed the ring. It's like the climax, and then 10 is like the end when they sailed off to the Forgotten Lands or whatever.
Cool.
So in wands are all about fire and creation. So I think it's pretty cool because there's three of us, so it's like 33, kind of three times three, and we're talking. And this is the ultimate creation is the creation of your own life, your path, your dharma, or whatever you want to call it. So I think this kind of goes towards Owen's course and his like completion because it's whenever you do something like this, it's kind of like signaling to the realm or whatever the universe that this is what I'm interested, this is what I'm in here, and it's kind of I think of like a graduation, right? It's like getting a degree, but this is something you did totally on your own without any handrails or whatever. You figured it all out, you put it all together, and you put it out there. So that I think this is what the card's kind of pointing at.
Cool. I like
Yeah.
that. And I pulled one. I don't know if I'm allowed, but I pulled one
Yes,
too.
you are.
How dare
Okay.
you? No.
It's kind of funny actually because like I pulled the Empress.
Nice.
You want to hear
And which
something
is
crazy? The Empress is on the bottom of the I'm sorry, was on the top of the deck
that's crazy.
because I pulled
Yeah.
from the middle. So yeah, okay.
And then the instructions have the Empress on it from the actual deck too.
Oh
Which is,
yeah.
Yes.
so
I think I have that little book too myself.
yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. It's a good card.
Yeah,
Nice.
the Empress symbolizes a lot of what we just talked about with the nines. It's a lot of bounty, and there's three of us here. Same thing with if you look at it in the step, the Fool is like where you entered everything, and then you kind of became the magician. When you mastered this, but then you have to get in touch with your feminine, so then you align it, and that's where the three is, right? You have the bounty of everything.
That's cool. I
So,
like that.
Love
Very-
it. Great stuff.
Yeah, it'd be a good conversation. Again, thank y'all so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Super cool.
So, do tell us about your journey to creating the path to purpose or path of purpose or path to your purpose course.
Yeah, for sure. So I created something similar to it maybe a few years ago now in 2021, which was titled the same thing. I've got to tweak some things on my Patreon page because I think it's confusing, but the idea really is to understand your purpose, your reason for being. In reality transurfing, he says your true goal. He says when you identify your true goal, it turns your life into a celebration. And so it kind of gets into all the cliche stuff of like, it's not the destination, it's the journey, which is true, which is true. It's a cliche for a reason. But what's great about it is that you're not pushing your happiness off. You're not saying, oh, well, one day when I accomplish X, Y, or Z, then will have arrived. Then I will be happy, which is kind of how we're trained to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's by identifying that thing and moving toward it that gives you that sense of joy, excitement, celebration, motivation, direction. So when you wake up in the morning, you're like, all right, I'm going to get after my thing. I'm ready to get out there. I'm ready to do it. And so, in the past, I had accomplished some pretty, goals that I had found to be important to me or impactful to me. And I noticed, like, we'd put out a record, for instance. I was a musician years ago. We'd put out a record, and then I would kind of feel empty, and be like, we did all this work, we made the overdubs happen and went to the studio, did the drum tracks and mixed it and mastered it and all this stuff. And that was the best part, was doing all of those things. And then whenever the record was done and made and we sent it out to CD Baby back in the day, to distribute it and all that, then I'm like, okay, well, this is not keeping me warm at night. You know what I mean? It's not spooning me in bed. I don't feel any better for having accomplished this thing. So I kind of noticed this a long time ago. And then after I got into self-help and self-development, I looked into like so many different authors and speakers and people in personal development, from Steve Pavlina, Vadim Zealand, you name it. Like, I watched dating videos and pickup artists and just took as many nuggets as I could. It's kind of funny that like that whole dating realm, like you see these guys who are going out there and I guess like initially their goals to get laid, right? Like I assume. And then they wind up reading the Tao and reading, and finding these other things that you're like, what? This is totally completely off the map as far as like what you intended to set out to do. Now all of a sudden they're reading the Bhagavad Gita and sharing like ideas about spirituality or whatever. Anything I could pick up, I would pick up and just cobble it in and make it a part of, my own experience. And so I took like from the Ikigai, which is like an old Japanese ideology, it's your reason for being. It's what you're good at, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and what you love. And you take all of those aspects and elements and then you synthesize them together. And then I added the part where it's like, also do the opposite of those things, where it's like, what do you not like? What can you not be paid for? Like,
Apophatic.
Go ahead and get those out there too. So you're not confused by it. And then, some of the ideas in Vadim's work and pendulums, and then Steve Avlina, as we were talking about before, had a exercise a long, long time ago. It was just like, write down what you think your purpose is. And when you write something that makes you cry, that's it. And I found through a lot of trial and error, and I started coaching in 2021. So I had a lot of clients go through several processes. So this has been iterations past and like what worked, what didn't work. Obviously not everyone cries, but they do feel some type of way. Like I had a Latina friend and she was like, I don't cry. I never cry. I was like, I don't know if I should be horrified or if that's the cutest thing I've ever heard, but like, she just didn't. She was like, I don't cry.
Tina that doesn't cry.
I know. I was like, what? But anyway.
I am a Latina and I'm not a crier myself. I'm just laughing at that too.
No, it's funny. And I find, like some people are just like very emotionally resilient, and I think she was one of those where it's like she just had been through a lot and accepted the world. Just a very beautiful person. But she's just like not a crier. I personally am. Like when I feel like a work is complete, like I'll kind of get teary-eyed. I'll get misty-eyed from, when that's kind of a symbol to me that like my heart and mind are in alignment. Of course, I'm a Cancer and all that. And people can roll their eyes. And
do you know what your MBTI is? Brandon's a Cancer too. That's funny.
Sweet.
I'm feeling you, bro. I was listening. What song was I listening? We'll definitely ask about his BTI, but I was listening to a song. I can't remember, but I started to get misty eyed. Oh, it was feels silly because it's an Avicii song, but it's "Wake Me Up." If you listen to the lyrics of that song, "Wake Me Up," when it's all over, it is kind of about growth and I mean, especially if you went through that, it's going to be about that. But
I thought it was wake me up before you
before you
go,
go,
go.
go, yeah. I started crying. I'm like, they left me. Oh,
Oh, George Michael, right to my heart.
yeah. I played Faith the other day at a wedding. You gotta have faith. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um.
Oh God,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know your Myers Briggs? Did we talk
Yeah,
about this?
last time I checked, INFP. So
That's hilarious. Did you know Spoons is an INFP?
no, that doesn't surprise me. I'm talking to her in a day or maybe it's tomorrow. So I'm going to talk to her in a couple days.
Yeah, my woman is
Oh, that's
INFP
awesome.
too. Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
many INFPs. I get it though
Yes.
because it seems to me that this world, the way it is right now, INFPs are one of the top ones that just don't fit in, and because they feel it so emotionally. Like I am an INTP allegedly, so it's different for me because I could just turn up my apathy, right? And I could be like, these guys are idiots. I'm just gonna go play video games in the basement. But yeah, it's much different when you're a feeler. So
Yeah, I have to be pretty conscious about what I expose myself to, like, YouTubes and stuff. Like if I can't click the Russell Brand link or you know what I mean, like whatever the news of the day is, the
yeah, yeah,
really graceful or whatever, I'm like, nope, got to scroll past that one. I'm going to watch something else or just, I try honestly to just limit my content consumption as much as possible. I'm just trying to make myself bored, so that I can basically open up and get more ideas. And I've found there is definitely for me a correlation there. It's like the more I limit my intake, the more output that I have.
So the reason I asked about the MBTI was because something you said earlier was that like the whole journey thing is like the seems to be like the exciting part for you, like the good stuff that you like. And like when it's all done, you're just like, okay, what do
Now
I do
what?
now? Like
Yeah.
now what? Like what? So what's funny is that, and I don't know it well enough, and I don't remember all the details, but I know that for me, I'm an ENTJ, and for me, it's all about the end goal. So when I'm doing something like, let's say I'm on a hike and I don't know the hike, like it drives me insane until I'm at the end and I'm just like, okay, here's the halfway point. All right, we're heading back. I'm good now. Like I just can't stand the not getting to the end, or like even getting to the very end. Like if it's a loop, I'm like, I just got to get to the end. Like it just like drives me nuts. So,
That's awesome. No, I love that. I think that's great. For me, I take a lot of motivation from the fact that like, and I remember this from a show where I was doing a comedy show, and it was usually a super hot room, tons of people always. I was so excited about the show. I had my act all polished up. I was practiced and everything, and we get there, and I guess it was spring break in this town, so kind of nobody shows up for the show. And then I'm in the backstage with another comedian who's named Matt Guy, really nice guy, great, good comedian. And he, I was kind of like, I was bummed. I was like, damn it, like I've been preparing for this. I was super excited about it. This place is usually supposed to be packed, and it's my first time here. I was ready to rock. And he was like, nah, man, these are the good old days, and I was like, man, you're right. Like I have to be able to allow myself to be here and just experience this moment. And because of that, I've had a much better attitude at like shitty open mics and shows that were underattended and those types of things. Just knowing, like one time we were doing a retirement party at a nursing facility, and and I'm doing my bit, and like someone literally came up to me and just took the microphone away because like the whole audience was like chattery. And I'm like just doing my thing. I'm used to it. Like by this point, it's like not even a big deal. I don't care. But
yeah.
like some dude just came up to me and goes, "Hey, can we respect this comedian's time and be quiet. And then like it's like, oh God, now they're gonna hate me. You know what I mean? Like now all eyes are on me. Like before they were just like eating their food and talking between them and having a decent time. Now
Mhm.
they're all mad. You know what I mean? Because this guy came up and told him to shut up. And so, but in the moment, like it was hilarious too. And I was able to kind of enjoy that, keep that story. And then my friend Phil and I, like, we'll never forget that. Like we came up together doing comedy, we started around the same time. So like now he and I have developed a little bit, but those were hilarious times and they are part of the memories that make and shape us. Like to one day when I'm doing like a bigger show or whatever, like I'll always look back at that. And even now I look back at that, and try to enjoy it and try to enjoy wherever it is that I am in the process. And I mean, I want to obviously accomplish the goal. That's what we set out to do. It's not that I don't want results, but the motivation is so much stronger for me when I'm in pursuit of it. And maybe that's why the founding fathers put the pursuit of happiness in the Constitution instead of like,
Mm.
it's like you can, you can pursue it, but that's kind of not necessarily an end goal in itself. So I like it from that perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then there's that whole concept of like, sorry,
No, go ahead.
pursuing happiness instead of realizing that you can have it now too, right?
Yep. And I think that's more like allowing, but it was kind of that with the albums for me or like accomplishing this goal or that, whereas like I was engaged. I was engaged in the process when we were doing overdubs in the studio, and I couldn't get that bass line right or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I put the record on and listened to it, I'm like, okay, well, now
You
what?
weren't doing that baseline stuff anymore.
So yeah, so the motivation, where's my motivation? Where's my excitement to like move forward? So for me, like that whole path to purpose course and the whole point of it is, you know, pursuing that thing that's helping drive you and just being aware of it and going towards it. It's like what I'm building now with like the Athens comedy brand is like it's a baby and it's so cute. It's a little baby, nurturing the baby. And that's fun. I love it. Like it could become a teenager, it could become, this full grown adult and be this big thing. But these are kind of the fun parts, right? Where we're like, oh, we should do a spreadsheet about this, or we should, do this type of content or try this thing. We'll dial it in and have processes through trial and error. But the trial and error and building the process itself is kind of the funnest part, is the discovery, I guess, and not necessarily the accomplishment.
And that's what I tell this to people all the time. These are the good old days. You want these things, you want this, you want that. You can't wait until you're here. Well, when you get there, you're going to look back on this time as these are the good old days. It's like enjoy it now while it's here. I love that. It's so true.
Yeah, it is. And it's easy to forget it, because we are
Oh yeah.
motivated and that's a good thing to want to accomplish. But also, to just rest and relax in this moment. It's like you already have all the components. The results they're going to come no matter what, and especially it's very much from like the Bhagavad Gita where it's like you can focus on what you can do, you can take action, and just taking the action, that is enough in itself. It's not about the fruit. You don't worry about the fruit. You allow the fruit to come in, but you can really only control yourself when it comes down to it and how you take action. And so you might get the direct result that you expect. You may not get the direct result that you expect, but you might get indirect results that you didn't expect. I was just talking to my friend Courtney, who started this brand, Ratherby. Like, I don't know if you guys are Vampire Diaries. Have you ever watched that show? I never had, but she's lives in the place where they filmed it, which is Covington, Georgia, which is Mystic Falls, Virginia. And so she started this brand and she has been a branding designer for like Google, YouTube. Like she's a genius. I've known her my whole life, but she created this thing and through creating it and engaging with the community, she started to she's like, I made friends with people. Like I've got new friends. And I'm like, yes, exactly. It's like kind of like spoons might be a great example. And so many other people that I've met through doing content on YouTube, you guys, like where it's like, I had no idea that I would meet such incredible people because I decided to talk about a book and make some videos. It's like, these are the indirect results that come. Sometimes they're far richer than the direct result that we're actually going for. So from that,
Absolutely.
yeah, from that, it's just take the action and let what happens be what happens from there.
I love it. Yeah. Speaking of spoons, she has been, because she and I did that Path to Purpose course that you did, we kind of did it around the same time. And so we were talking back and forth about it, but she feels like, community in some way is involved with her purpose. And, whether it's building community with different people in different places or whatever it is, she feels that's part of her purpose. And it's interesting because like there's been some synchronicities and stuff where I find something that I'm like reading and it like reminds me of her and her desire for this purpose or whatever, and I shoot it over to her and she's like, yeah, that's totally synced with what I've been thinking. So I just love all these synchronicities.
Me too. And building community is like one of the most, I don't know, to me, like impactful purposes that you could have. Like, what's more valuable than community? They even say it in all the, rich people self-help that your net worth is your network, But when it comes down to it, like the true riches to me, like those are the people in my life, the people like that I am able to connect with and bounce ideas off of, and we coach each other, we help each other, and we have friendships, and all we share, and that's the most important thing. I mean, it's like, I want to accomplish these external goals too. That's great, but the reason why I'm able to is because of the relationships that I have. It wouldn't be possible otherwise.
Yeah, and I'm also, along the many other books I'm reading a book about Ikigai. It's called Ikigai. And it's funny because it was a total synchronicity as well, because like, I don't know if it was a week or two before you had put the course out, I started reading it. And then I like went to this coffee shop to like journal a little bit. And I like looked at the little Venn diagram chart thing. And I started kind of like writing down a little bit. So when I came across your class and I did one of the first few exercises or whatever, you had us do something very similar. So I already had, it wasn't like it was a cold start for me. I kind of was like, oh, I've already started to try to do this once before. I didn't get very far, but like now that I had this course to go through, it felt like it was giving me that chance, that opportunity to go through it and do it. So, that's not why I was talking about this. Oh, the reason I brought it up is because, and I said this on a previous show, but one of the reasons that people live so long, they found through this book I was reading, when they go to places like certain places in Japan where like the what is it called when you live very long, that period? Lifespan or something like that.
Oh yeah, life
Is like,
expectancy.
yeah, when like certain like pockets of the world have like higher life expectancies or whatever. And they found when they compared them all, as one of the things that was like one of the factors that contributed was having like community, like a small circle of people that people could like rely on for different things, and sharing that community and that whatever other words that go along with that. But that was one of the main factors for like a longer life expectancy, which contributed to Ikigai.
That makes perfect sense, because I feel like, especially in this society, most of the old people just end up in old folks or nursing homes. They don't have a purpose, even if they're home or whatever. They don't have a purpose. And the older people that I see that are doing really well are the ones that still do the things that they did every day. They're still doing them, and they have a purpose. So
Yeah.
it goes right along with the whole course, right? Finding your purpose. If you lose your purpose, then you will probably lose your chance to be in this realm, you know?
Yeah. And that's like that really resonates with me because I've seen my mom go through being assaulted or being like purse snatched, basically falling on the floor, uh, getting hurt, and like sustaining a fracture in her shoulder and her arm, and then going to physical therapy and just killing it. She's just like, she's a trooper. She would just like do her absolute best. She would do all her exercises at home and everything. And like in less than 3 months, like the therapist was like, she finished all her goals that I had for her. And she's just like killing it. Like, and my mom was born on a ranch or a farm, so she knows tough. She's always been very tough. So um she has that drive, that purpose, that desire to keep going. If she didn't, she wouldn't be where she is.
Yeah, and I think this is not just true for older people. This is the opioid crisis, right? This is the suicide. This is so many people just drinking themselves to blackout every night. It's because I feel like they don't have a purpose. It's really what it is, and these aren't
Very
judgments.
true.
I feel like I was engaged in major escapism until I found more of a purpose in the world. So this is all connected. It seems like it's not, right, but it's all this stuff. It's all connected.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, I had no idea. I was just seeking pleasure. I didn't know what else to do until I kind of had like, we talked about this the last time I was on, my whole like finding out conspiracies and the world's not kind of what I thought it was, that jarred me, but it made me dig deeper and find what my purpose was. Like that was the biggest thing that I struggled the most with too. So ironically, of course, right? Like that's the thing I can help people with because I struggled the most with it. It was the biggest problem for me and I had to know and I had to know and I just couldn't figure it out. And once I finally did, I'm like, okay, well, I need to bring this to people and share it, share this with folks. And then the Transurfing book is really what kind of got me some like guardrails, I guess, and kind of set me on course. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to follow this particular model and I'm going to, do things in this particular manner toward, that goal. And when he talked about it like that way, it sounded a little bit less, I guess, corny or cheesy, right? Like we can, it's like the purpose driven life is like so like youth groupy, But I mean, I think it's the same thing. Like true goal, purpose, dharma, ikigai, like they're all the same thing, but it doesn't matter. It's like, there's nothing wrong with things being cheesy either. Like the truth is often kind of corny. Just no, you can't help it. It just is that. I don't know if that's a social stigma more than anything else, but for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of however it is that you want to frame it. Like what container or label do you want to put on it? And then go toward it with that. And it's fine if you want to appropriate,
Yeah.
baby, like, go for it.
There you go.
And could be cultural as well. And the way, like ikigai, obviously is a Japanese term for it. And then Vadim is a Russian guy, right? So all of these books are in Russian and have been translated, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct. Yep. He hates
Do
America.
he hates.
He hates America, like with a deep passion. Yeah, apparently Salah al-Rashid like tried to take him to a movie, and when he found out it was an American movie, he just wouldn't go. It was like, no, I will not go. I mean, imagine being someone who was around during the Cold War and the fall of Russia, like how much like propaganda that we had about how bad the Russians were in the 80s. They had probably the inverse of that, and who knows, maybe even worse, So it's like, yeah, it's even the most spiritual people have
I was gonna say,
Or
somebody's
maybe
got
he
some
just
work to
saw
do.
like what took it was much quicker what happened in the Soviet Union, the cultural flip and appropriation, all that descent into socialism. Maybe he just saw it happening here and didn't want to be a part of it, like he saw the movies because, I mean, it's pretty much all propaganda, right? Coming out of Hollywood. So
Right.
maybe that's what it was and it got flipped, but who knows, right?
Possible. From what I understand, he does not like America very
Yeah,
much.
I'd take your
Not a
word
big
more
fan.
for it because I'm just being a
I don't
capybara,
know.
I'm just, by the
I
way,
mean,
it's,
I've never.
I was just
Devil's
gonna,
advocate, but the
yeah.
capybara style version of it.
Yes, we're
Totally.
just two capybaras on a caiman's back. Or three capybaras on a caiman's back. By the way, I was just going to say it's episode 90 was the
Riding the
last time.
caiman.
Yeah, riding the caiman. Episode 90 of the Oversharing Show was the last time that Owen was on. So check that out. We'll have
Oh,
a link
thank you.
below. So yes, but exactly. I think there was something else.
Well, I wanted to
Oh.
ask a little bit more about if you do know anything more besides that about Vadim, the books that he wrote, because from what I understand, the one that says 1 through 5 is just one of them. And there were some previous ones that he wrote. And if you found out from Peter Sage what transurfing really meant and you want to share it, please. If not, that's okay too.
I will share it as soon as I speak with
Find
him
out.
in the morning. I'm speaking with him in the morning, so I'll put it in the Telegram chat immediately. Like, I just don't know. But yeah, so those books were written starting in the early 2000s, and then the version that I have is all 5 of them compiled together. And so I guess it's a different translation from the very first the books that when they were individually written because they were spaced out. So it was like the first one was like maybe 2001 or 2, the second was like 2004 or 5 and on and on. And then they took all of them and smashed them into that and then a new publisher published it. So it was originally I can't remember the name of the publisher, but it was a publisher out of London. I actually sent them a message a few years ago and they were like, "Oh, we lost the rights to that book. It's now owned by VES Publishing and in Russia, and apparently that guy's not very nice." You know,
Love how these things happen with, and I'm being facetious, but
it's so weird.
it's like
in this community, right?
Dr. David R. Hawkins' scale of consciousness. Dare I say anything? I don't want to say anything about it at all, but I will just say that it's kind of like that. It's like, really?
Yep. I've been copyright struck by his wife on my YouTube channel for sharing that. And it's crazy because I see other people sharing it.
I'm sure she probably does that to everyone.
Yeah, I think she does. Well, I was shocked. I mean, I thought it was when I got the notification, I was like, for that? Like, I was surprised that it was for that and not something else. But yeah, it's amazing that people in the space would be that vindictive.
Like, yeah, I don't understand when you're like, I thought the purpose was to share people.
Mhm.
Like, hello. Like, aren't we supposed to be helping each other heal?
We're not going to share our money though, right?
But still,
no,
everybody
no.
who hears about that is going to potentially buy the book and read it, right? Like that means more sales for you. Like, I just don't understand the internet works.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they don't like want you to like create the audio book of it and then just publish it on your channel, right? Like I get that, which I've done.
Why not? I'm just kidding.
Which I have done, but I understand why. But I had the green light too. You know, I started doing it and then got a green light. But like
for which book?
For the Russian, reality.
Yes.
And then they decided against it. It's a long story. It's a long.
So you had it posted and then they asked you to take it down, or?
Oh yeah, some like representative. It's like hierarchical and all that, and things have changed even since then. Like the person.
That's so ridiculous. That how can you like renege the permission? It's like I already had the permission. Now you're telling me I don't. That makes no sense. I already got it. So sorry, it's here. Biatches, sorry.
Well, YouTube doesn't know, and so like I even had my certification yanked. Like I was certified as a certified reality transurfing instructor.
You're freaking kidding me.
No, and then I had that.
Why?
Just personal stuff.
Oh my!
It's not even.
That is so
a real reason. It's just,
ridiculous.
yeah. So then, now the
Anyway,
person that like had initially like certified me finds themselves on Vadim's blacklist. So it's all this politics and stuff like that on
see,
a
that stuff
book
is
that he
so,
says he channeled and no one can own. So it's like, I don't really
yeah,
know
yeah,
how to qualify any of this stuff.
exactly.
The principles, though, at the end of the day, are what matter. And the principles that are in that book are in the Kabbalion, Emerson, self-reliance. They're in the Tao Te Ching. They're in the Bhagavad Gita. They're in every other spiritual book. They're not any different. And it's a channeled work anyway. So some of the
Mm.
later books that he wrote are also really good. And then also channeled with this woman named Tatiana.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I don't know, like, yeah, Tatiana is such a stereotypical Russian name, but
Yeah.
she's
Romanov.
like, she's
Just
like,
kidding.
yeah, exactly. Of course, I bet it wouldn't surprise me. But she's like this Tufty, the priestess, is like the second book. And so she's
Okay.
like this BDSM like goddess that like whips you into submission and calls you a snail and says, all this stuff. It's a really good book though. Is like
Is
it's
it like fiction or what? I don't, because I saw that title and I'm like, what is this about?
so
I
it
didn't really
is.
dig deep.
Yeah, I mean, it is supposedly her message, Tufty the priestess, who is this goddess, from afar. And maybe it's somewhat fictitious, but I mean, it's written from her mouth to you
Channeled
through
work.
the book, channeled, yeah, from
Mhm.
Tufty. And essentially it really does build on the principles of reality transurfing,
Okay.
the advantage principle, because what she's saying is you all are snails. Like you don't understand. You see 0, 1. This is good. This is bad. This is good. This is bad. This bad thing
It's
happened to
true.
me and it's bad. Wah. Oh, this great thing, good thing. Yay, good thing. Oh,
It's
bad thing.
true.
Oh, right. And she's like, but from a 10,000-foot view, you don't understand that every single thing that's happening to you is for your advantage and is bringing you
Yes.
toward your goal. So
Hello.
yes. So it's spot the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like it is, she nails it. But it's presented in kind of it's very unconventional. And then there's another book that's called Tufty's,
Oof.
can't remember exactly what it is, but it's written completely fiction and it's like real trippy and weird.
Did he write that one too?
Yeah, he wrote that one too. And then I
There's
think
one
there's a
that
couple
said
other ones.
eat foot. So it's spelled Tufty
That's
backwards.
it.
That's
That's
the
it.
one.
That's the one. And
And
it's
that's the
about
one that's the kind of
fiction.
more fictional one.
Yeah, it is. I've actually never read that one myself, but
Okay.
several people have. Apparently it's like reading like the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, it's just like super trippy. There's like purple cows and like all this dreamy stuff. So it's I like her mirror world existence. So it's like what's happening on the other side kind of
Did
thing.
he channel that one too? Or
Probably so.
oh,
That
okay.
seems to be like his thing. And then so now he's like really into fruitarianism and just eating fruit and like frolicking naked in the Siberian wilderness or whatever, which is fine.
Good for
I'm cool with
him.
that.
Hey,
It
to
sounds
each his
fun,
own.
right? But yeah, like the tech. There's another book, something about the tech something system that it's
Technocracy.
good too. The ideas are just they're the same ideas, but he's just like gotten into like food stuff and like different ways to do eating different types of wheat and different like fruits and stuff like that. So he's like really into like diet and stuff.
Nutrition these
I
days.
don't
Yeah.
think that what they have there really translates to Western culture because of the farming practices and the way
Yeah.
that we are, the limited choices I would say that we have, right? Like, so it's kind of hard to bring that over. But the way that he talks about making bread and just different things, like he's very specific about it. But yeah, I mean, he's still making stuff, still doing, and apparently he gives like his books away for free in many of the smaller European countries and in Russia.
Oh,
So, so the fact that there's like any hullabaloo about it is kind of silly. But, again, the principles are what count, and you can find those in many, many books. And then even the ones that I made and narrated are still out there. They're just on different channels. I just can't publish them because I said I wouldn't,
oh,
after
but
being
other
told.
people have them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, It's on Spotify. I mean, you can
Oh,
find it on
okay.
Spotify. I'll send links to anybody who wants to find it because like I know where they are, and it's like uploaded to like Odyssey and all these other
Okay.
back channels and stuff, so that
Nice.
they're still out there. It's just hard to find. But they had another guy narrate it uh, officially, and it's this like guy who has this kind of
Weird
like
voice.
pompous British and
No, 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 no.
yes,
I prefer your voice over.
and it's even longer. And I was like, I thought I slowed
Ew.
down, it's
Ew.
like
No, I'm just kidding.
34 hours, right? Like I'm like, dude, my mine was 25. This is like
Wow.
32 hours or something because he speaks so long. But it's like this very professional narrator. So they decided to do that. Fine.
I like your country accent, okay? I love it.
Yeehaw.
I do. I do.
Yeah, not a lot of great Southern philosophers out there, but we do
That's
our
funny.
best to republish and I
They
guess Mark
burned them
Twain was.
all. Sorry. Couple hundred years ago. No, I think that's an important message, Joe. What you were saying about the tenets or the or the principles of something could be good, but the person, it's you don't want to worship. You don't want to get into idol worship or worship of the person because they were just
They're
brought
on
with a
their journey
message.
too.
They're on,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They're on their journey, and sometimes you need chips, dips, chains, and whips. That's a weird science reference, that movie Weird Science. On your path. Everyone has their own path. So somebody might look at that book and be like, this is crazy. But somebody who's into that might read it and it might change their life because those principles are instilled. So it's like you're putting the medicine in with the foods, the dog's food, you stick
Yeah.
the pill in the whatever. It's the same kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, and I try and separate that all the time, even when I meet, like they say, never meet your heroes, because
Mhm.
you're going to see that they have flaws. So I
Yes.
try and see someone's work and then I see the person, right?
Hmm.
And try to keep those things kind of separate. Like if like I'm certainly not perfect either, but like I can share these principles. I've internalized some of them. I'm still working some stuff out, but I am happy to share my experience. I'm certainly not a perfect person. No one is, and I'm trying to be better and more vulnerable and open about that, too. That's why I'm talking about like dating, which is kind of like faux pas, and people don't really open up about that, but me and Todd have been going out there. We're 40-year-old men, like in the dating world. It's a pretty weird experience, but I think there's a lot that can be taken from that, and as we share
Hmm.
our experiences. So it's one of those things, there's the work and then there's the person, and so try to keep those things as separate as possible. And just like I admire people's work, and I've looked up to a lot of people as mentors, and I've met people too that are, to play devil's advocate, that are amazing, right? And like they had great work and they were great people. But I've also met people who I've really admired their work, and I'm like, I don't know about this guy or girl, I don't think so. But I do appreciate their work. Like, then there's some people who I'm like, their work's great, but I would never work with them in a business. Like, I don't think they're trustworthy or something like that. And then other people who I would partner with because I feel like, they would be considerate and stick by their word. And there's narcissists out there. You can usually see it in their eyes, though.
Yeah, it reminds me of the time I met Jose Canseco when I was like in eighth or ninth grade, and I was just like, this guy is not what I thought he was.
Wow. I remember Jose Canseco, man. Wow. Like that dude, ooh, he was an amazing baseball player.
He was not
Amazing.
not amazing with eighth grade people, though. He does not.
Golly. I can imagine.
He
Yeah.
was. He just looked down and didn't even say hi. Well, that's all right, though. What are you gonna do, right? That's
Weird.
exactly when you meet your heroes. That's the best way. Just be open about it.
That's where he was at, man. He probably had a lot of crap going on.
Oh
I had some
yeah. Now looking
demons.
back at it now,
Yeah.
yeah, he had a lot of drugs he had to take, so it was rough.
Oh
Yeah. He
man.
was on steroids like a motherfucker, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
he
Probably.
probably was.
Like Jack White's one of those, right? Where it's like like his work is incredible. Like what an amazing volume of like what a catalog. But apparently like he's kind of a madman. Like he gets in fist fights and drinks and all that kind of stuff too. And it's not a very amenable in business and music. And I've known a couple people who have been signed to his label and they're like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this dude. He's a lot. So, it's it's weird, but it is what it is, I guess. You try to take
Yeah, I was
baby in
gonna
the
say it's like
bathwater.
ironic though when it's in this line though when it's rock stars. I
Oh yeah.
get it, you know what I mean? Like, of course, but again, yeah, got to separate it. Whatever works for you. It doesn't matter what the person is. That's what we. I think we spent like half of the show in the beginning talking about that. Like, it doesn't matter who the person is. It's like it's just about the work. Like Aleister Crowley, right? That's a huge one.
Sure.
People, it's like a red flag. But I'm like, but I love his tarot deck, and if his tarot deck helped me, does that mean he's an evil person? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, and
That's
what is yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You were going to say something. I'll let
Well, I
you.
mean, like people misquote him too. It's like love is the law under will. You know what I mean? Like they say the first part, you know, but they don't talk about that because like it does come back to love. And who knows? Like all these people like that, they have these far out stories about them. There's even like some of these old Sufi tales of like this guy who leaves and he goes, on this big discovery and this big adventure. And then he comes back and then all this lore follows him that he's this magical healer and all this kind of stuff. And when he comes back and denies all of that and is like, I'm just a regular person, they kill him, because they're like, no, you are magic. You're the magical dude, and it's like, whoa, hold on. Like people just blow up these ideas and these personifications of people and it may or may not be all that accurate. So, even with Crowley, I don't know. I've never really studied his stuff, to be honest, but it could be that he was just, a lot of that is stuff that's just mystical tales of, it could be bullshit. I think a lot of it easily could be, but who knows? Like take if there's any good lessons in there, then take those and apply them or let them go. I mean, like whatever it is, what.
Right. And like we were saying with like everybody else, like you look at their work and then take their work with a grain of salt, but like take that person with a grain of salt too. Like they're sharing stuff maybe that was channeled to them that was like amazing, but that doesn't make them like 100% like pure and worthy of worship. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
Especially,
like,
yeah.
I was just going to quickly say, like, could it be that Aleister Crowley, like he recognized all the stuff that he looked into, all the stuff that he channeled or whatever it was you want to call it. And he realized, I have to do this till I'm done. Whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's, being attracted to the same sex or whatever, or whatever he was doing, like he knew he had to probably just get it out of his system this lifetime. And, until he was done. But that didn't mean that he couldn't put out information that was like useful and true. I don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Who knows what kind of like things that were discovered through some, just because you took kind of a weird left-hand path too. It doesn't mean that what's attained through it can't be used, for good.
And I think also it's important to know too that if he was okay with his weird tendencies and dove into them and accepted them, it could have been better than him denying his tendencies. Because look at what happens when people deny their own tendencies and try to push it down. So maybe he was, being an example. And this isn't what I want to turn this into like an Aleister Crowley apologetic podcast. Because if you're new to the Oversharing show, we could take him or leave him. Everybody, he's just a guy. That's kind of how we look at everybody. But we just, when someone's heavily demonized, we always like to ask
question
about
why.
it. Yeah, question. Yeah. See, synchronicity, we know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not trying. Like I said, I don't know his work that well, but I just know
we don't. It's not like we do either. But like we read one of his translations of the Tao while we do our show, because we have 4 translations that we read, and one of them happens to be Aleister Crowley, because I happened to find it like totally by, I would say, accident or some, of course, synchronicity. And I was like, I showed it to Brandon. He's like, yeah, let's totally read that as part of our thing. Yeah. Like, why not? Like, let's just check it out, see what he says. And I mean, some of his, translations are just like mind blowing. Sometimes I'm like, Okay, let's read that again. Let's try to make sense of that one.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, the Tao, especially, like look at it from as many different angles and
Yeah.
translations as possible. Because
Yeah.
there's some like
And
Russian ones too.
I still have yet to listen to yours, but I will soon.
for anyone that's new to the Oversharing show, if you're came here because you're a fan of Owen, welcome. Thank you so much. But we want to make you aware that we are doing a series on the Tao Te Ching. So every once in a while, or sometimes a few weeks in a row, we do an episode, but there is a separate playlist. So you can check it out here on the Brandon Bonanza podcast or Brandon Bonanza channel on YouTube. But we have 4 different versions. We have Dwight Goddard, Stephen Mitchell, Stan Rosenthal, and Aleister Crowley. And the reason why I wanted to include Aleister Crowley was kind of like because if someone is triggered just because it's Aleister Crowley, it's probably better than they're not watching the show, because we're going to say a lot of triggering things, just like in the opening quote that we talked about, because that's all the kind of stuff that we talk about, because those are the conclusions we come to. And it seems that all these, like you said before, all these principles that are laid down in the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao and all these different religions and belief systems, it's all the same kind of message. And this is really what it is. It's like, it's your fault if you're suffering, like it really is.
It's your
like,
point of view.
Yeah, it's your point of view.
You change your mind, you can change.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone check that out if you have not. It's been great. We're up to 50. We just 55 and 56, right? Sharon, is that what it was?
56 and 57.
Oh,
56 is the those who know don't speak, and those who speak don't know.
Oh yeah, that's right. 56, 57.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah.
So profound. I love the Tao so much. It's transurfing in 2 hours, dude. Like,
yeah.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
The Stephen Mitchell version is the one that I did. It's
Oh, you did that one. Okay.
Same version. Yeah. In fact, like the way that I recorded that was completely unconventional compared to any of the other ones, because I just listened to him and then repeated it through a microphone.
Oh, wow. Nice. Okay, I didn't realize that. Nice.
Yeah, I love that version. That's the one I listen to all the time.
I love his voice too. Like, I think his is much better than mine, but I just wanted to do it. I was like, how will this play? Like,
I love it. I love that. Yes, it's inspiring to me, because like I've wanted to do that before, like read audiobooks, but I just haven't done it. And I feel like your class got me to hone in on that desire of wanting to do that. And
I think you'd be great with it too. You got an awesome voice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very soothing. And yeah, and then you got a great microphone for it too. And if you need, any insight or help, I've published a bunch, so I know the whole little process and stuff. So I'm happy to help.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Me too.
Yeah. I have like a random question, because you mentioned Vadim, and he's from Russia and stuff, and you were talking about how he's like all into nutrition and stuff now or whatever. And the name Anastasia and the Ringing Cedars, like it made me think of that, even though I've never really looked deeply into that. I kind of have just a gist of what that's about. Does he know any about that stuff, or does he reference it, or does he?
I don't think he ever references it, but I absolutely love the Anastasia stuff. The Ringing Cedars is so fascinating. My friend Abby, she even bought like a piece of the Siberian cedar that she wears around her neck. Like, you can just like order it. But there's a lady on YouTube that reads all those, and that's my internet crush. Like, I want to meet her so bad, because she reads all the whole series, and she does a great job. And it's like, it's not perfect, which is what makes it perfect. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like she'll, it's not perfectly edited or anything, but she's just like reading through it. I love that series.
Awesome.
So much. I used to fall asleep to it all the time.
Oh, I gotta check it out.
Wow. Okay, I may have to get that link from you to the lady, just so I can have an idea of like her reading and reading that book. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very much not polished, which I like. It's all about your taste and what it is that you like. But is it this one? I think it might be. Yeah. I'll send it over to you for sure.
Okay, no worries. What can you kind of give us just a little tiny bit of what that series is all about and what you know about it? I know very little.
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's been a while since I've listened to it. It's been a couple of years. Vladimir Megre, I think, is the
Yeah.
uh, author, and it was written in the
Yeah.
90s. But it's about this guy who is he's on these ships, and he goes up to Siberia and gets off the ship, and he meets this young girl named Anastasia. She's beautiful, and she's like in this town, and he winds up going out with her to the wilderness, and she starts teaching him their ways. And so the Siberian wilderness, they don't have any of the modern day creature comforts accoutrement that we do in society. They're living completely in the wild. And I mean, she's like, the bears make sure we're warm, like the squirrels bring me food. It's like, it's a little bit, you
Mm.
know, romanticized and extreme from that angle. But the idea is that the ringing cedars in Siberia, that's what Solomon built his temple out of. Those are holy. That's a holy place. It's a very unique and spiritual place. And then she introduces him to her whole family, and like they've lived this way for so long. And she talks about like her kind of psychic powers and their ability to use their, I think she calls it a ray, to be able to see things. And she's telling him things about his life that she couldn't ever know. And she's like just extremely tapped in. She's talking about the disconnect of him and him coming up in modern culture and how he doesn't have a lot of the gifts and abilities. She's even talking about like how cherries felt when he, didn't pick them off a tree, and little details that no one could know about his life. So it's like this kind of magical, wild woman from the forest that kind of like shares her way of life with this man who has been living on a ship. And I mean, initially he was just interested in her because he thought she was pretty or whatever, but they wind up, going out into the woods, and she teaches him all about their culture and way of life in the forest of Siberia. They don't wear really any clothes or anything like that. Like it's completely wild. So,
Amazing.
it's a little bit romanticized, maybe a little over the top, but it's beautiful though. Like I'm a sucker for it because I'm such an idealist. I'm like, oh, I love this, I want to
So,
believe it so bad.
right. So, okay, that's where I'm kind of confused because when I tried to do a little bit of research on it and look it up, it was like Vladimir Magre was the guy, and it was him telling the story of how he met her, and now they're married or whatever, and they're together and they live this life this way or whatever. Is that true or?
I have no idea if it's true or if it's not.
Okay.
So I couldn't say one way or the other. But
Is it
what's funny,
written as if it were fiction, or is it written as if it were true, like a
yeah, it's
life
written as
story?
nonfiction, like from first person perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's talking to him. She's like, Vladimir, blah blah blah.
Okay.
You are kind of in his position, first
Okay.
person, and she's teaching him all of this stuff. It's so beautiful. I need to revisit it, and I love the girl's voice. It's like awesome.
Okay.
Like the one, there's like, I see several versions, but I'll make sure that it's the one because I'm sure like a bunch of them got re-uploaded too. It's probably a lot of the same versions, but yeah,
And
it's a
apparently
beautiful.
she's allowed to read them without being copyright struck or whatever. Who
I
knows?
mean, who knows?
Maybe you can tell me later, unless you're okay telling me now about how to write things or how to like put up a disclaimer of sorts to like for like entertainment purposes or whatever.
Well, I mean, you can summarize and talk about anything. And I tried to express this back in those days. I was like, look, dude, you have, I can't remember what it's called now. Like it's like fair
Fair
use. I
use.
think
Creative,
that's what it's called. Yeah.
fair
You have
use.
fair use. I can talk about whatever the hell I want to.
Hmm.
And the people that I was collaborating with at the time, they didn't get that, and I was like, look, anyone can talk about this. And they're like, but what if we are the only people who can talk about this? And I'm like, that's not possible. Like you can walk
Not how it
around with your
works.
silver hammer and like try to smash people's channels down, but it's not gonna work. Like, and it inevitably didn't. work. For a minute, you could intimidate people and scare them off, but like, well, why would you even want to do that? Like, why would you want to gatekeep self-help? Like, what is the matter with you? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
it's that's the complete opposite of self-help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I thought you guys wrote this for purposes of self-help and now you're trying to squash it. That doesn't make any sense.
And yeah, and I don't even know that it has anything to do with Vadim directly, but like the publishers and then some of the other like instructors who were verified or whatever, a lot of politics, a lot of people getting jealous of this or that or more attention. And, it's kind of the same old story, unfortunately. So, not necessarily anything to do with Vadim. I've never actually even spoken to him. Like he was gate kept for sure. Like I was never able to connect with him. But yeah, some of the other people, they have their rivalries within the community, this instructor over here and that instructor over there and blah, blah, blah. And, like, so, I mean, how can you even blacklist somebody? So on his website, people are blacklisted. And I was initially blacklisted, and Aaron Doughty as well was blacklisted from teaching it. And then now someone else is blacklisted and I'm not. So I don't I don't know. How can you blacklist? Like, again, fair use. I can talk about whatever I want. I can prove that I've read the book. Whereas I don't know that anyone else has the same evidence that I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can actually hear me read it. I'll read it for you. And I've read it dozens and dozens of times. We've done the book clubs and stuff like that, which is, I think, a great way to do it. So like for me, that's a great way to kind of like counteract that whole copyright thing. Because it's like, if you do
Absolutely. Book
a
clubs
book
can do
club,
that.
right, I
Mm.
can read whatever I want to in my book club. I'm not creating something that's copywritten or trademarked within that. We can just talk about it, and then it's private anyway. And so I'll probably do another one of those. Um, Pretty soon. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I would like to do the Gita as well, just because.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I voted for the Gita.
Nice. Good choice. Yeah. I the Gita was something that people had told me about and told me about and told me about. And it just never really hit. But when it did, it hit so good and so deep. And I am just absolutely in love with it. And I've read Jack Hawley's version several times now, and I've got a
I don't
couple
know
of
that
other
one.
versions. It's a walkthrough for Westerners, and this gentleman Jack Hawley, he was a American. He went over to an ashram in India and was over there for like 20 or 30 years. He and his wife. So he read through all these different versions, and then created a version for Westerners. So that was the one that someone recommended. I don't even remember. I wish I could remember who recommended that version to me because I have no recollection of it. But thank you to whoever it was, because some of the other ones are a little bit more difficult to kind of get through. He does a good job of breaking it down to the Western left-brained kind of mind. But there's a
And
lot
his
of
name
great.
is again?
Jack Hawley,
Jack.
Hawley. I'm
Oh,
not sure if he's.
Hawley. Okay, I was gonna write it like Hollly.
Yeah, it does sound like that, but yeah, it's Howley or Hawley. Yeah,
Hawley. Yeah.
Hawley. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a good
Cool.
one. Yeah. And all there's a lot of great versions. Like I was talking with a friend too, and I got a version that he recommended, and it's awesome too. Like there's a bunch of great versions. But that was just the one that if you're starting out, I that one hit me. Like it was really good. So
Nice.
I
Yeah.
listened to Eknath Eshwaran's version where he
mhm.
does the commentary as well on it. So that's the first time I ever heard it. And I only went through it one time, but I've been wanting to get through it again, but there's so many books I'm reading right now.
I know it's a lot. I'm trying to limit, and that way I can like focus a little bit more. Like, I'm reading this self-sabotage book a couple of times,
That's right.
and then I want to be able to focus on it and then just limit the other things that I put because she has some pretty good ideas within that book and definitely
Is
some
this the
ways.
mountain book?
The Mountain is You. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some really, really good little tidbits in there I don't want to miss. It's like when I listen to a book, I might get 10 or 15% of it the
Right.
first time. So it's like I want to, and I'm bookmarking as I go through to just like, okay, remember this, remember this. Cause like it's for me, I'm working with people and on myself. It's like these are ways that we can really help ourselves to overcome some of the stuff, because she talks a lot about future pacing with in your intuition, and using instinct in the moment. So one of the things that she says that I found very eye-opening was that if you try to, psychically kind of use intention and forecast, or intuition and forecast, then it's not accurate, but it is accurate in the moment, like how you feel now about what's happening now. And I think there's definitely a lot of truth to that, because it's so
Oh,
easy to just kind of
yes.
project things out.
Yeah, I love
Mhm.
that concept.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth there.
I think
Uh,
that's a very INFP thing too, right?
yeah.
Creating those worlds. Yeah, yeah.
Writing the
Right.
story, as Spoons and I say.
Hmm.
And I'll let you know too. I've listened to the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know, hundreds or thousands of times, because I got into it in like 2014, and at night before I went to bed, I would just listen to it. So it's I'm super into that. So yeah, I'm excited about that for sure. We're probably gonna do something with that's on our list too, to do something with the Bhagavad Gita ourselves on this show. So
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I had a buddy who he's my barber, and and a really good friend of mine. Like, people make jokes because I don't have any hair, but he does my face. Okay, but yeah, and we would talk about it and listen to it some
oh
together. And I always knew it was great, and I always had a lot of respect for it. But until maybe a few months ago, maybe something like
oh
that.
nice.
Yeah, it really wasn't hitting me. And
Yeah,
then
that
all of a
happens
sudden,
to me too all the time. You try something, you try it, and then you come back to it, and you're like, whoa. But that's another reason too. I kind of use the Bhagavad Gita as my temperature gauge, so I'll listen to it and then I'll see how it hits me in that at this time in my life or whatever. And then you listen to it again. It's like one of those things, because I'm not sure. Well, since you just got into it, we probably didn't talk about this then. So Ram Dass did a lecture series about the Bhagavad Gita, love, service, and devotion, and you could get it on Audible. It's just him lecturing about it, and I have also, because what I would do is listen to the Bhagavad Gita. Then when I was done, I would listen to Ram Dass's, at night for like an hour or whatever. I listened to that, and then
And the funny part, and Ram Dass says this at the very end in the conclusion portion, he's like, you may think that I wasn't even talking about the Bhagavad Gita this whole time, because I never like specifically was like, okay, here's the Bhagavad Gita, quote, and now we're going to talk about what that means. He didn't do that. He would just talk about life and about his experiences. And I loved it. I think I've gone through that love, service, and devotion lecture a couple of times now. I absolutely love it.
that's awesome. I will definitely check that out.
so many good quotes too, because he reads a lot of quotes in his lectures, and oh yeah,
Yes,
quotes.
he does. Sometimes I grab a quote and I'm just like, okay, pause. I need to write that
Yeah,
one down or bookmark it.
yeah.
It's really good.
That's awesome. Yeah,
But yeah,
for sure.
well, do we have any thoughts or questions? I think we've been going a good while now.
Yeah, probably almost an hour and a half, I guess, maybe a little less than that.
Something like that.
How's the comedy going?
Yeah, it's going good. I've been focusing a lot on producing, and I'm working on, my act as well. I've got some pretty exciting shows coming up. We're doing a rivalry show at the Georgia-Florida game the night before in Jacksonville, Friday night before the big college football game. I'm super excited about that. And then next May the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th be with you.
May the second week.
We're doing the very first annual Athens Comedy Fest. So
Oh,
almost ready to launch the website. It looks incredible. I'm so proud of everybody's work. And
that's awesome, dude.
yeah, it's huge. Very, very big. So like, I've mostly been here building this scene, working on digital content, and like putting that, storing that up for the Athens comedy page and stuff. And we're starting to collaborate with some other people in the community through digital content, like shorts and reels and stuff like that. And then Comedy Fest is huge. So that's the next big thing. And so like a lot of my bandwidth has been taken into the sort of production aspect, and I'm still hosting and doing comedy, and developing my act as well. It's going good. I don't know. I hit roadblocks with it sometimes. It's just part of the nature of the game. But yeah, I mean, I got some good material, and I'm still trying to add to it and really just dig down deep and find my voice, because I want to be talking about this kind of shit that we talk about on stage and making it funny, but like
Yes.
kind of a tall order.
That's a
Uh,
tall order, but man, it'd
Bro,
be
I
so
know
cool
exactly what you're talking about.
because B tries to do that too.
I write so much of that stuff in it. It's funny because you get to a point you're like, I can't say that though, and like I gotta. This has to be funny. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. For
I
me, like, yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I feel like I'm starting to make some breakthroughs with that, and
Good.
it really just comes with having conversations with other people, and also just being really corny and loving puns. Because I feel like if I could just do that and then sneak in the other stuff in there, and make it funny also, because people like to laugh at themselves. So as long as you're not lecturing them.
Yeah. I mean, it's been first getting in, like wanting to chop people's heads off and be like,
Yeah.
"Ah, blah, blah, blah. Let me lecture you." And like nobody wants that.
Mm.
And I understand it. Even taking a side, whatever it is, even if
Yeah.
people agree with you, then they're still like they pull back hard. Even if they're agreeing with you and you take the side, like you just split the room. They don't like it, they all pull back. So it's been a process. I've learned a lot about it. But we've got some really cool shows too. Like we're doing this one show that will soon be a podcast. We'll launch it out next month, called Tournament of Topics. And I'm super excited to get more and more comedians on it because it's a super engaging, fun show. There's 16 comedians and it's got a bracket. And then so two people go against each other, they spin a wheel and a random topic comes up and they have to riff on that topic for a minute. Then the next person goes. And so the judges decide who wins. They go to the next round and then the next round. And then so there's one winner finally at the end. So it's
That
really
sounds
fun.
fun.
I
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
really fun. And, very much like the, what is that? Stand
Who's
up on the spot kind of
Oh yeah,
idea.
yeah.
But instead of it just being the audience launching out stuff, it's the wheel spins. And then the audience is, engaged the whole time. Cause like, even if the person bombs, they just bomb for a minute. And then there's an applause, and then the host Levi is great. So he'll make a joke about the fact that they bombed and then get a laugh. So like the whole show is very fast paced all the way through up until the end. Then there's a big winner, a big finish like that. So the timing's gotten good. We've been working on tweaking the show and making it better every single month. And we do it monthly at a place here in town called the Globe. And I got a
Wow.
couple other buddies who want to produce some other podcast type shows. And then I just so happen to have some skills in that area from working in production for a while. So I'm trying to leverage my skills and help us, to create some stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. It's just been a lot of like wearing the producer hat role, and you'll see me eat it on that show because it's fucking hard. Like, like the two things that are always on the wheel are 9/11 and the Holocaust.
Oh, wow. That is freaking
Oh my
hilarious.
Awesome, right?
9/11. Oh, I have so many good 9/11 jokes. Oh my
That
God.
is so
I
funny.
mean, I think
Mhm.
they're good, but
Right, right. Well, it's fun because, the comedians, they have no idea. And then the people who are in our community who are regulars and come see us, they see us do a lot of the same jokes, but on the Tournament of Topics night, you never know. So you can kind of come out, you can root for your favorite comedian. You have no idea what they're going to have to riff on. And it's a completely different skill set than doing like a standard set. So really a fun show. And then we do roast battles. And so I've got a bunch of clips for roast battles and stuff like that. And now I'm talking to sponsors in the community to hopefully sponsor some content and sponsor the festival. So I'm getting real businessy. But I've found that a lot of the great comics kind of are like that. Like Bill Burr, for instance, owns All Things Comedy. So he's obviously a pretty good business person. They produce a lot of specials and podcasts and stuff like that. So, I've kind of been focused on that aspect of things.
awesome.
still writing, and working on my act, but I'm hoping to kind of get that breakthrough where I can talk about this stuff on stage in a fun way. That's engaging. Because like I've found that a lot of times if I go up on and start talking about spirituality, it just goes right over everyone's head. And they're like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
this? You know?
Yeah.
It's they're in the physical, right? And Sharon and I talk about this a lot in the show. This is a thing, or principle, or whatever we've been breaking down and getting into. But there's two ways to look at things, and people never tell you that. Like the good examples, like the New Age. The New Age tries to get all, well, the bad New Age stuff or whatever. The bad, you get it. Tries to get all the spiritual stuff into these physical ideas. So you're up there talking about spiritual, and spiritual is something that you can only know. You can't prove it. So you're not totally making claims, but the people are hearing them as claims in the physical realm. So that's like, you got to break that barrier. And with the, speaking of the roast battles, I had this idea, and I don't know if it would work. But maybe one day I could get to put it together. But instead of a roast battle, do a boast battle, where you have to like compliment the person, and you can make it funny, but you have to, like, instead of being mean spirited, you have to be nice about it, like in the capybara spirit of things,
Oh,
And I
yeah.
only know this because usually when comedians make fun of me, that's the way they do it. It's like, look at this guy with his beautiful hair and amazing voice. They're always, and he's a giant. He's so handsome. They're always like, it's. So
I
I
love
think
that.
it would be hilarious. And especially as we start to, I mean, if you want to use the idea, great. But like, as we start to bridge this thing to make spirituality funny, it would work, something like that. Or perhaps, and maybe not for every comedian, but I think most comedians can work on the spot or whatever. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
I want to do some more sketches and stuff too. Like I've done some like sort of esoteric sketches, and I'd love to work with people and do some stuff like that
Yeah,
too.
well, let me know for sure. I know you reached out before, and I just been, starting a new relationship. And speaking of bandwidth, it's just, but I think we're getting to a point now where my bandwidth is starting to open up more, and we've established an amazing foundation. Shout out to my lovely fiance, by the way. But yeah,
Oh, congratulations, man. I'm glad to hear it.
yeah, and it, you know what it is? It bringing it back to self work in this topic we've been talking on, and Sharon can attest to this. When you're in a relationship, that is some of the best area for self work,
Self
because
work.
you have this person who is gonna annoy you if you live with them, right? It's gonna happen. And speaking of INFP, right? A lot of times she'll create this giant mental world, and she'll be there, and she's there sometimes when I'm talking to her, and I think she hears me, but she doesn't. And then also I have this amazing voice, so she hears it and she's just like, oh, like this is from her mouth, I'm not, hey everyone, I'm not just being cocky up here. But so I'm actually working on a bit about that, how she
You
doesn't ever hear
soothe
me.
her.
Yeah, she just hears, it's like, Elizabeth, there's a bus, watch out. She's just like, like,
Oh, so captivating.
yeah. But so it's something a lot of work I've been doing on it, because I'm starting to realize, because all this stuff I've been talking, all this shit I've been talking on this podcast about not being a victim, and how dare you be a victim, right? Well, I find myself being a victim because I'm like, oh, well, it's my turn to do this, or she didn't hear me, or this isn't fair. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I just being a victim? And what I'm really starting to do is create a safe space for her to be herself, because she's into this stuff too, which is great. I mean, I think it's a blessing if you can find someone who is also
For
into
sure.
self work.
Oh yeah.
And so I could be a safe space for her emotions, and especially as a woman, I feel like, and I think women don't, not all women obviously, but a lot of women will test men, and I'm sure men test women too, and it's subconscious too, right? And I feel like a lot of men fail that test, and they wonder why women either don't call them back or whatever. And really, it's just about being cool in every situation, just being chill, and realizing that, anyway, in our example for our relationship, because every relationship obviously is different, right? But in the relationship, I'm more of like the rock, right? I'm the one who has to, not has to, but I'm the one who's, I guess, a little more stable in the moment, right? And then long term it's different or whatever. But anyway, it really is a lot of self work, but it's great. And if you could get to that point, it's just like your life, as you start to accept things about yourself, or things that happen around you, as you start to accept things about your partner and accept and don't push away and don't feel like a victim, it just kind of disappears and goes away. And our recipe, of course, because I'm a comedian or whatever, and I love to laugh my whole life, is we just make everything funny. And she has a really good sense of humor. So that helps too. Comedy really helps.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, so I look forward, Owen, I'm sure, when I don't know why. Listen, if there's available ladies out there that are listening to this, what is wrong with you? Look at this guy. I mean, I want to like cross over. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying, he's
Oh my
funny.
God.
He's into like all this self work stuff. I mean, that's yeah. So definitely authentic, and that's why we appreciate having you on every time. You're super authentic. We know what we're gonna get when you have it. It's just like you're hanging out with one of us when you're on. So
I'm happy to be
it's
here.
great.
Yeah. And, there's always room for one more in the rotation, ladies.
No.
That's right. And he's funny. Look at him. He's like he'll put a Bigfoot suit on. I just admit. All right.
Goofy. Yeah. Goofy. No,
This
it's
isn't
it's
that
been
kind of
fun.
show.
I'm enjoying being single.
Oh,
So,
good. Yeah.
it's been it's been a lot to like work out, but I've found a friend who's also single and also a freaking great guy. And so like we just started talking about like we're going out on the weekends and then we're talking about it. But we just started a new series called The Morning After in the Afternoon. So we're talking about our uh
Excursions.
exploits, excursions, adventures, what have you, in the field of just like going up and talking to strangers. And it's guys and girls. I mean, it's not like we're just going up to women just only, but it is, obviously we're going for that. And it brings up so much. It brings up so many emotions and so much of like childhood trauma and all kinds of stuff. So he's very well versed in all of Hawkins stuff. He's
Oh.
read all the Hawkins books several times
Wow.
over and has like a lot. He's helped me a ton with like some of Byron Katie's stuff. We've done positionality work and parts work. like I was talking to a bowl of beans that was it's like that was like an externalized part of me. You know what I mean? Like the critic is this bowl of beans, and we're like, because we're sober, like we can do the work anywhere. It's like, so if I'm not feeling great, like I feel like a lot of stuff coming up, like we talk about it in the moment and start
That's
addressing it
awesome.
right now.
Oh yeah.
I love
And
that.
yeah, it's fascinating. And so it's been really good. So if nothing else, like doing that has just been talk about like, getting into self work and bringing things up to work on. It's been really helpful for that. And then it's cool too, because like we're expanding our social circle. I've met people who have been great business connections, people who have, back to the Bhagavad Gita, indirect, results from action. It's like, yeah, I might walk up to some girl because I think she's cute and start talking to her, but she might be like, oh my God, I work for so and so and we're looking for, some content or whatever for our brand. And then we connect and talk about, working together or something like that. So lots of different things can come about from that. And also just getting over myself,
Feeling
my
awkward.
own fear. Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. So it's like, I know that I've had women in my life who, frankly, I don't feel like maybe they were a little out of my league, or like I thought like they're so attractive or something, where it's like, would I actually approach this person? And if I wouldn't, I felt like, well, do I really deserve to have them in my life if I wouldn't have the courage to like just walk right up? So in times in my life, I feel like I would have, but over the past couple of years, the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, totally, fell out of that. And I have had like a little bit of an induced transition through that. So like building my self worth up and my confidence up and getting more momentum socially, it's been really, really good for me. And it's made like I think, as far as the male female dynamic for us, and this is Todd's thought on it, is that like women really inspire and challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. And, for me, I've found that to be the case. Like the other day I was out and he was bragging on me and I was like trying to be humble or whatever. And this girl looks at me and she goes, do you not believe in yourself? I'm like, God damn, like that fucking cut deep.
Wow.
And I mean, the truth is, I do, but sometimes I don't, and like that made me like question myself and be like, okay, well, in what ways do I not believe in myself? And like,
Mm.
can I build on this and like, and really start to look internally, because that's what it inspired me to do. Like it was brutal in the moment because it just like took my breath away. But then when I sat down, to journal about it, and he and I had been talking and debriefing after all these weekends, we're like, we might as well let's just talk about it on the internet and put
Yeah.
it out there and
Yeah.
see if
Yeah.
people can take something from it, and I think it can be very helpful, to just put yourself out there and be vulnerable and just kind of try. I mean, of course, we're always going to have a little bit of a mask, but we're trying to just strip it off, you know? So hopefully I don't lose my whole entire following, but
Oh, stop it. You will not.
no,
Well,
I
you know
think,
what? If you lose people, that's on them. But like the people who stay are your people, you know?
I think
Because
so too. Yeah. That's
you'll
part of it. That's part of it too. And that whole people pleasing and wanting to,
hmm
make sure everybody's okay. We have to, especially through the comedy thing, it's like, if you're like back to the quote at the very beginning, we'll bring it all around it. If you're offended, that's on you. So,
hmm
being okay with that, learning to be okay with that. So it's been really revealing uh and edifying and distressing
Yeah.
all at
And
the same.
that's awesome. I had a thought, and if, I don't know, I think Spoons is only a couple hours away from you guys, but if she's ever up for it and you guys are up for it, like you guys can get together and do an exploration, like all three of y'all and whoever else wants to go, but like do this because she also is trying to get out into like, you know, she does rideshare right now, so that's how she's experiencing like
Cool.
meeting random people, right? But this would be cool too, I think, like just randomly going up to people and just having conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think people could benefit a lot from. Even if, and I'm an introvert, right? Like I'm an INFP. So
Mm-hmm.
but what's really cool about it that we've found, because we do this completely sober, is that you can get like a runner's high just from being social. And it
That,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
literally, even if you're an introvert, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just like
Mm-hmm.
minimize the time between the interactions, and then you just keep talking, and then you get into this mode where like you're not, your vibe is just built
Mm-hmm.
up to where like people are like, please come talk to me. You can see the thing flip too. Like people are like, they want you to come over and talk to them. You can see them like basically like waving a handkerchief, energetically. And because you get into this, really, flowy mode. And so by building that up, like it's really fun. And then you're going to get into this vibe, and then you can carry that over into the next day, as opposed to like if you go out and drink, then you're going to have a hangover. And most people, and I get it. Trust me, I did that for years and years, but most people need to use the crutch, to be able to be social. But if you can figure out how to do it, especially if you have some friends too, that helps. It's almost impossible to do
Mm-hmm.
it yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can do that and figure it out, then it can be really fun. And then you never know like what can come of it. So we've really enjoyed it. It's really cool to have met a friend too in real life
Mm-hmm.
who's into all this stuff, and
Oh
Yeah.
who's
yeah.
also single and out, trying to challenge himself, because I mean, we could probably both settle, but we're like pushing each other, to see where is the edge, where is the limit, how far can we go? So it's really fun, and so I encourage people to check that out too. That should be fun, and that's part of that purpose thing too. It's like, because my purpose is like I also really
Connection.
bringing joy, connection, community. And so, I think this builds up to us making kind of a social circle from it, the
Mm-hmm.
people that we meet. And then ideally, we're doing events and fundraisers and things like that down the road that are fun, that can incorporate comedy, music, and all other sorts of fun. It turns into maybe something bigger. So that's kind of the hope. But we also are just kind of playing it by ear too. I don't have a specific outcome in mind, but I think that,
And that's the best way, I think,
great things
right?
will come.
You
Yeah, it's
just
like that whole outer
let go
intention.
and let God.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the fun part. So it's been really,
Jesus, take the wheel.
that's right.
I was thinking that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
I'm stoked. I can't wait to speak with Spoons. And we were going to try to do a hike. Maybe we still can. It's just my schedule. I've been buried right now. So I'm trying to kind of, with everything going on, keep everything managed. And I got to go to Florida next week and be down there. And then I'm going to Austin. So I've just been
Busy, busy.
on the go. And I'm trying to be more productive than busy, right? Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be busy. Being busy sucks. You know what I'm saying? Most
Yeah.
people are just busy being busy. And that's not what we want to find ourselves doing. So,
Yeah.
working on it. But yeah, I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. And I got to have y'all on my show. I thought we were maybe going to do this on my show, but we will. Like, let's do
Yeah,
there.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, let me know. One thing I wanted to say really quickly, and it's something earlier I was going to bring up too when you talked about the pickup artist thing, because I have a little experience with that too. Because I was reading Neil Strauss. I heard him on a podcast and I read his book, and he was a guy who embedded himself. I might even talked about this last time, but I remember though the reason I bring it up is because I remember my point of view when I was coming across that stuff, and it's like, oh, you could be able to talk to women better or meet better women or high class women, but he talked about this, but I don't think it fully computed. But what he said is what you're really doing is you're just working on yourself. And you're making you're the best version of yourself to then you could find someone who you'll feel worthy to be with, like you were saying, because I feel like that's, we could talk about this for hours, but when you're in a situation and you don't feel like you're worthy of it, you do tend to self-sabotage in many ways. And I can attest to that so much. Check out the Brandon Bonanza podcast for that. No, but yeah, or my comedy, right? Or but so if there's young men or any man out there that if there's any wisdom I could share with them or knowledge or whatever, it would be that what we've been saying this whole podcast is to just enjoy the ride, because you never know. You can't picture it. You can't construct in your head how it's going to happen, because it's going to be more magical and crazy than you're ever going to believe anyway. And you're never going to be able to predict it, so might as well just leave yourself open to it. And by working on yourself, you're going to make yourself more attractive, and then you're going to speak better, you're going to be more well spoken, you're going to be able to communicate better, because that's half of the problem. I've noticed it lately. I'm like, is Mercury in retrograde? I'm like, I think Mercury exploded. I think like somebody blew up Mercury like the Death Star, because people. But that happens a lot in relationships too. And it's these silly little things because one person, they didn't even mean what the other person, how they perceived it, right? And then that person is all offended and all this stuff. But anyway, so as you work on yourself, those things start to get, less and less. And you can find a quality relationship, and then you could be there. And you could look back on the good old days when you're hanging out with your friends and you're talking to people and you built this amazing network of friends and stuff, right? Yeah. So it really is just about accepting your situation and making the best of it in gratitude, I feel like. But I just wanted to say that because I was thinking about that a little earlier, and then you brought it back up, and I was like, yeah, that's really what it is. It's just about improving yourself, making yourself.
That's exactly it. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going out there and they're like, oh, I'm going to get laid or whatever. It's like, that's the furthest thing, about it. It's really not about that. Like, and then what's funny about it is that like a lot of those guys over the years, there's one guy that comes to mind named Owen Cook. And like I remember he was like big into this stuff like years and years ago. And then all of a sudden he's like some guru, talking about all the spiritual stuff, Eckhart Tolle and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what? This is a completely unexpected sort of path for this guy. He's actually, if you read Neil Strauss's book, he is RSD Tyler in the book. So the bad, terrible guy who is painted as the villain throughout the whole book, he's still around and alive, and his name is Owen Cook. And he has a channel. It's like Owen Cook Free Tour or something like, I think that's right. And so he does these long, long videos, but he'll be like out in Montana in the wilderness and talking about like self-development stuff, Eckhart Tolle, meditation, all this stuff, And so he does still talk about dating, but it's shifted a lot into self-development and self-help. And yeah, it's kind of funny because he's like the bad guy from that book. And then now he's this like super spiritual guru guy.
Like, you never know, right? That's why Frodo didn't kill Gollum, because you never know. Because Gollum's the real hero, everybody. Hate to tell you.
Hot twist.
And what I wanted to add to what I said was what you said earlier about when you get into that vibe and people want to come talk to you. Well, as you work on yourself, you get to be in that vibe all the time. And I noticed that because I DJ weddings, so I'm out in public a lot. And that's really what happens. People just come over and be like, oh my God, you're awesome, or this is great, or they just want to be around your energy because you are so uplifting and they feel like such a good time. So I feel like that's what happens. And that's how you attract quality people. Because if you're just out at a bar talking to people and there's, again, no judgments or nothing wrong with it, but if someone's going to hook up with you quickly like that, they probably have issues too. And then, I don't know. But again, not that there's anything wrong with it. But
sure. People do as they do. But yeah, I mean, it's probably the least effective way, honestly, to meet anyone. I look at it like more like and no, not to be derogatory at all, but like more like batting practice, right? Like where I'm going out here, I'm going up to this person. I have no idea. They have no idea who I am either, right? Like there's no aura around me. There's no, halo around me. Like if I met somebody who has been watching my videos for a while, they might look up to me a little bit or whatever, right? Or know me at a deeper level or whatever. There's some mystique or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is just a random person. They have no idea. I have no idea. It's completely flying blind and pretty ineffective. It's like, hey, what's up? I maybe met two or three girls over the past 6 weeks or so of going out that I would be interested in potentially having a relationship with. So like I'll, continue to see where those go. And if anything comes out of it, great. And if not, that's fine too. But just doing it for the sake of doing it is been worth it to kind of work through my own emotions. And my big thing is perfectionism. It's funny because like I can be so sloppy. It's in certain areas and just be like, I just want it done. I just want it finished. Good enough is perfect. But like as far as presenting myself, like I feel like I have to be this like perfect person before I can have the thing or whatever. And so what I've learned is to accept myself more now, and I'm still learning it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's one of my big takeaways so
And
far.
I just want to clarify too quickly. When I said meeting people at a bar, I didn't mean I meant, so if you're going to work on yourself and do like the pickup artist or whatever and work on yourself, if you're at a bar and you're talking to people, that's totally different. I meant just normally going out quickly, trying to like find somebody and not wanting to do the work. Because I was talking about when you get into that vibration and people come over you. So you could, yes, be at a bar and attract the right person that comes over that just happens to be there, and it could work out that way. So I hope I clarify that. Yeah.
No, yeah,
Oh, you're
absolutely.
fine. Yeah.
There's no judgment. Like
Yeah. But that's what I meant. I was like, because it's much different though when you do the work and you're in that vibration and people come over and want to be a part of you. It's such a different thing than when you're out somewhere and you're just like, I gotta get laid,
right.
Obviously, like that's all I'm trying to say.
No, I think the whole old like pickup artist thing is like I'm broken and wounded, and how can I trick somebody into thinking that I'm not? Whereas, hey, I'm putting myself out there and being vulnerable and
Maybe I'm broken
myself.
and I'm wounded, but hey, I just want to chat.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
just opening up and just acknowledging that. That's one of the things that like is a huge takeaway too. Like you can just tell them, hey, I'm a little nervous, but I thought I'd come over. Like sometimes I feel like I have to lead the conversation and I'm not real sure where to take it, but I just wanted to say hi. I'm a little weird, but what's up, like, or whatever. And then just like wear it on your sleeve, whatever that is, instead of like trying to put on some facade and some mask or whatever. But yeah, when you do get that vibe up, like, yeah, people just come to you. Like it just does happen that way. And I don't know. I wish there was some secret recipe to just like dial that in, and just like be like that all the time. Maybe over time, it just gets easier and easier to build that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's kind of a up and down, it's going through those levels of consciousness. Like that's what that consciousness map from Hawkins is so helpful with, because, I've found myself being out and being like frustrated and angry, and then I find a way to kind of break through where I'll just like start dancing through the crowd, not trying to touch anybody or something. It's like a little game that I can play, or like making up a story that's completely absurd that has no logic to it whatsoever, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I've opened up the right hemisphere of my brain. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in a more creative space and more playful, because like we just live, and especially me, I work alone, I'm by myself a lot. Like we just live so much in the left side of our brain, and just to get out of there and just not think linearly, even for just a few hours, is like a vacation. So, it's been fun to just like exercise that. And really, I think the thing is like there's a gas and a brake, and I'm kind of like learning how to just let go of the brakes. It's not that necessarily
You
gas
just
has to
take
be
the
all the way
wheel.
down. Right. But let go of the brakes is just like that resistant part.
Let go.
That perfectionist.
Exactly.
Like I have to present flow. Perfect. Like if I don't say the perfect thing, and who cares? No one actually cares. But because of that, it's just what I've started to discover. And I think comedy has made that even worse, by the way, because it's like if every punchline doesn't hit, then it's like, oh, that wasn't a very good set, you know? And it's like, was it not a great set? Like two punchlines missed, you know, you can't be that particular about it, but living in that left brain so much. And so anyway, we could talk about this for a long time. And I don't want to take any more.
Yeah, no. It's totally fine.
We're oversharing.
I was gonna just add, it made me, when you were talking about like you don't know if there's like some perfect formula or whatever to get to so you can be in that space or that moment. I was thinking about during the nonsense of 2020, before I would enter a supermarket or a sort of establishment such as that, sometimes I would, like in the car, I would say like an intention or a prayer or something, like, you know, I would imagine myself being guarded from, you know, anything that was going to try to harm me, or, you know, any negative, you know, I was like, I want to be invisible basically, you know, so that no one pays attention to me. No one even looks at me. I'm like, no one even notices that I'm showing my smiling face or whatever. And like when I noticed when I did that, the times that I did that, I was like completely left alone. And it, like, not to say that like the time or two that I was kind of like looked at or like kicked out, that I didn't, because I don't remember. I probably didn't do that those times, but I'm just saying maybe like you could try to set some sort of intention before you go.
Yeah.
And I don't know, burn some sage or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I could probably use the saging, you know, for sure. Being out around, you know, drunk people's energy on a Saturday.
Palo Santo, little, yeah.
That's right. I mean, I forget that people are drunk until like they start slurring their words and shit.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I totally would as well. That's a good point.
Because like I forget, like I'm just completely.
You're like, I'm not drinking, so
right. I'm not on the vibe, so it doesn't
yeah.
crack with me, and then I forget, and then I'm like, oh shit, like they're drunk, and like they had like 2 or 3 drinks, one thing, but it's like somebody gets, you know, drunk, and I'm like, oh, that's not. If I was on the same vibe or level,
you wouldn't notice.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works. I've been a DJ for so long, and I do drink. I'm not like sober, but I don't really drink when I'm DJing. And if I do drink, I have like one or two. You know, we went out. It was our 2-year dating anniversary on Monday, so we each had like 3, and that was like a lot for me. I was still fine. I'm like a giant man, you know.
Yeah, you're a huge too. So
yeah, totally.
Got 2, 3 thimblefuls.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It wasn't even a giant mug, but I know exactly. Yeah, I know exactly.
It wasn't a Stein.
Yeah, nope, no Stein. So.
Yeah,
but yeah,
and I'm not like I'm not like sober either per se. It's like there might be a few blue moons a year where me and the boys are going out and we're just gonna go hard or whatever. But it's like in this particular context, it does not add anything, and I have to have like 2 days to recover. You know what I mean? Like if I do that. Nah, but you know, a decade ago it was one thing, but it's like my body just says no, no more. I can't.
Yeah, it was the same thing when I started doing comedy. I would notice that some people need to be drunk, and I didn't. I drank. I was like, no, I'm not going to drink, because if I drink, then I'll have to be drunk every time I go up there. And even when I started DJing a few years before that, it was the same thing. I had friends that worked in clubs, and they would have to be drunk or whatever, have a few to loosen up to get up in front of people to DJ. So I was a little older. I think it was like in my early 30s. So I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to drink. I'm just going to face it. You know, I'm just going to feel the burn. And it was fine. And now I'm like, you know, I don't get embarrassed anymore. I don't think it's like.
That's awesome. No, I mean, that's the right way. Like anybody's listening, like whatever it is that you're doing, don't use the crutch. Don't do it, because you're going to have it every single time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
100%. All right.
That's why I barely ever wear makeup, because I'm like, what is the point? Like, if I have to do it every single day because somebody's going to be like, oh, I didn't even recognize you, you know, like. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Can't do it. Sorry.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Lovely. Well, thank you again. I'm going to give a shout out to the chat because when we premiere these every Thursday, we premiere a show or go live. So join us, everybody. We hang out in the chat. So shout out to the chat. Thank you guys hanging out all the way to the end. We really appreciate it. You could check us out. morelawsmoreproblems.com is the website, and you can click on the Oversharing tab. Go there for all your oversharing needs. You want to plug some things, Owen?
Oh yeah. Tell us where people can find your stuff and your audiobooks and all that cool jazz.
Yeah, so y'all can find me bootsygreenwood.com, like my stripper name, Bootsy Greenwood on Instagram, Bootsy Greenwood on YouTube. Blue Collar Mystics is the name of my podcast, and try to put out new stuff every week there. And then on Patreon, patreon.com/Bootsy Greenwood. That's where you can find the Path to Purpose course absolutely free. Go check it out, go through it. There's chats for every module. So you can share your work and cheat off of other people's and see kind of how they did the exercises and try to make everything super concise. No videos longer than 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. And then the exercises are really where I tried to, demonstrate and give really good examples and a process to kind of help you kind of discover what your direction is, what your purpose is, what your true goal is. So check that out on Patreon. And then, from there, keep a lookout. I'll be publishing some new stuff, and I'll have some new offers and things out very soon. So thank you all so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, and thank you for all the work that you do. Shout out to you. And this is something I was going to say and I forgot. Now I remember because it's perfect for the end of the show. I felt like I was going to have a channeling that was going to come through and I was just going to speak, but I didn't want to interrupt people. And it was that, stuff that people like us have to realize is we're early adopters. And I feel like these ideas, right now, I feel like you're building an empire that you just don't know it, so have fun. These are the good old days. And when you're on top, don't forget about the little guys like me. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, I want to say that because it could get very discouraging when you're talking about these ideas in spirituality. And I'm not saying that I think spirituality, like everyone's going to get spiritual. I don't think that's what it is. But I think the ideas that we're talking about, the reason that they resonate with people like us is because we're early adopters. We're the ones that try this stuff first. And everybody that I've seen that's into this stuff is really awesome. So, just keep plugging along, and I see nothing but success in your future.
Dude, so. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And we're all going, I'm not going to
leave us out.
I'm not going to do a 4chan where we go one. No, but we're all going together is what I'm trying to say. We'll be walking arm in arm, but yeah, I appreciate it. And it means a lot. It really does. And I think that's exactly true. And more people kind of discover this and start to implement the principles and stuff, the more we're kind of going to grow in capybara numbers, which is people who, understand themselves and are part of a group, but not, sucked into it.
Yeah.
Like a pendulum or an egregore.
Yeah. We're also making these ideas funny and digestible in our own words. And we use all of our experience with the pop culture before that, all the stuff we were subjected to, all the stuff that people say is negative. Now we're turning into a positive, right? And you could use these ideas of spirituality to inject it in there. So I see nothing but great things in the future. So,
And like Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah. I love it. Perfect.
Me too.
All right. Awesome. Well, this is a good time for me to ask Sharon, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing,
then you totally stop being a Karen.
That's right.
And remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
We're just trying to tell you how we can all walk each other home better.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Until next week, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. Take care.